I'm sure most of you must have heard about the situation happening with Ezra Olubi, the co-founder of Paystack. Yes, the scandal. It was alleged that between 2009 and 2013, he made some posts that were unsavory, and somehow those posts have made their way out in 2025, and the whole place is buzzing. Now, let's start with a bit of context. What Ezra Olubi has been accused of happened between 2009 and 2013. That's at least 11 to 12 years ago. That's when it happened. And for me, 12 years ago, I'm sure there are things I did that I'm not exactly proud of. That is how human beings are. We grow, we evolve. There are things you did even 5 years before that today you wonder why you did what you did. But you know something the internet never forgets. So sometimes you find yourself, even when you've gone past a situation, even when you are no longer like that, you find yourself that you are still being dragged, you are still being maligned, you are still being insulted for something, for a mistake you made. We all make mistakes. That's why we are human. We all make mistakes. So I'm sure by now, Ezra Olubi, if indeed those allegations are true, I'm sure he feels deep remorse for what he made. So now we may be wondering what led him to make such decisions. I'm going to be making wild guesses here. Sometimes who knows what happened? Who knows the situation he was on that day? On those days, he made those kind of posts. It was alleged that he made those kind of posts. One, he could have been feeling depressed. Sometimes when people feel depressed, the way they make themselves feel better is to maybe say wild things or do wild things. They may be crying silently inside. They may have a need, a desire. They want someone to address something in their life. But the way they do it is that they rebel, or they do things that are provocative, or they do things that bring attention to them. So we don't know what he may be going through. Then again, some people get intoxicated. As young people, I'm not saying he got intoxicated or that was what happened to him, but people can get intoxicated, and as a result, they make rash decisions. Also, peer pressure is also something. What kind of company do you keep? Now, I'm talking particularly in general. Now, let's make it in general to Gen Zs and Gen Alphas. As a young person, there are many things that happen in your life. There are situations you find yourself and you wonder, how did I get there? Let me just give a little story. There's someone I know when I was in university. I met him in year one. He was such a good guy. He's a decent guy. He was a nice guy. But by year three, he joined a cult. He joined a cult. And at that time, we were no longer close. But when I met him once or twice, I noticed that there was just something odd about him. Now, fast forward to about 10, 15 years later, about 10 years later, I met him and we started talking about his time in the university. And he told me that, yes, indeed, because I suspected that he was in cult, but I now asked him, he said, yes, indeed, he was in cult at that time, and that there's something he did to somebody, that he dated somebody around that time, and he really hurt her, that before he graduated from the university, he had to go to apologize to her, because he knew that what he did to her may come back to him if he doesn't show real remorse, because he really hurt her. He didn't give me the details, but I know it was something that was not palatable. And this is someone that I knew in year one. He was a very nice guy, he was a very decent guy. And today he is a decent and a good guy, and he's a big guy in a big company. He's working for a multinational. In fact, he's their African representative. So, but he had a sour past. Let's face it, most people have something they did in the past that they're not exactly proud of. That's why, as a young person, if you're a Gen Z, you're a Gen Alpha, try to have a mentor, someone older than you that has maybe gone through life, that understands what you are going through, so that whenever you want to take a decision, especially a major decision, make sure that you run it by that person, someone that you can trust, because sometimes some people could take advantage of your innocence and take advantage of you. Make sure it's someone that you trust, someone solid, someone with a solid character, and probably most likely someone that in the past went through certain things and really wants to mentor under young people. Yes, also be careful about social media. Sometimes we get emotional on social media. Once in a while I do get emotional and I could write things that I'm not exactly proud of. So be careful what you write on social media. But that being said, it doesn't mean that, okay, you can, because maybe in future somebody will see something, you now want to now be nice on social media and you are not really nice in real life. No, try to work on yourself, try to understand who you are. Then another thing is also finding your purpose early. I don't think at that time, by 2013, he had started the company. He had co-founded, that's Ezra Olubi had co-founded the company Paystack. So as a young person, if you can find your purpose early, there's a tendency that you will not do things that you're not meant to do. Yes, now I found my purpose, but when I was younger, there were things I did, there were people I became friendly with that if I knew my purpose right from a very young age, I would have not made such choices. So the sooner you find your purpose, the better for you. That is another thing for young people. And also, young people, be careful about what you drink, where you go. Sometimes you go to places. I remember as a youth corper, a friend of mine told me that he wanted to go and see his cousin in Abuja, here in Abuja, and I followed him. And when I got there, they were now pressurizing me to take alcohol. I have not taken alcohol. I've not taken alcohol, and in fact, till date, I'm not a fan of alcohol. I've only tasted it once when I was a child. I was 8 years, you can imagine. My neighbor was selling alcohol. So when he was not at home as children, somebody, I don't know, a neighbor just brought it and I tasted it. And it tasted bitter. It was a beer. He was working for a beer company. And since then, that memory made me never take alcohol. But at this time, I was a youth corper. I now followed this my friend to his cousin's place, and there were a group of people there having alcohol, and they were practically forcing me, but because I was kind of stubborn, I refused. But sometimes you can find yourself in situations where you are forced to take things that you are not supposed to take. I remember too, when I was in secondary school, we were having inter-house sports activity, and some students sneaked alcohol. They put alcohol in like a plastic bottle so nobody would have an idea that it was alcohol, and they were passing it around. And when it got to my turn, I wasn't taking alcohol, and I was even shocked to find out that my classmates at that time were taking alcohol, and they offered it to me and I said no, and they were making fun of me. Maybe I would have tasted it, but for the fact that they made fun of me and my stubborn nature, I just decided not to take it. But that shouldn't be the reason because you are stubborn. You should know that those things, when you are intoxicated, you could do things that you did not plan. Even when I have quite a number. Like when I was in JS2 in a school in Lagos, I won't mention the school. A group of people had a party, and in fact, the party was during school hours. Was it JS2, JS3? They invited me to go to the party, and I did not attend, not for the right reasons, but for the wrong reason. In terms of, I would have attended, but something made me not attend. Let me just say that it was just God's way of preventing me from getting into trouble. By the time they went there, people that went for that party, they made them intoxicated and they did horrible things to the females. It was a group of guys that planned to really, you know what I mean, to assault some females. And that's what happened at that event. And it left scars for many. I'm sure the scars it left in fact, it was so terrible that after doing what they did, they also physically attacked those girls. And those girls were between 12, 13, 14 at most. You can imagine going through such a traumatic experience. So sometimes be careful who you move with, because sometimes you can get into some kind of dicey situations and you take something and next thing you know, you don't know exactly what happened. You find yourself doing something that you did not plan to. So be very careful. Yes, and also, are you in a situation? I want to talk to people that are a bit older. Maybe there's something you did in the past, and you don't want to mix with people. Maybe it's now on social media. It's gone viral. The truth is that whatever goes viral, let's just be honest, after tops 1 month or even 2 weeks, something else will come up. So people always want to, something about all things that go viral, negative, positive. People just want to be entertained. And after a while, a new topic will go on. But so if you're in that situation, something happened and it's now out on social media, just know that is not unique to you. People, if you check the history, people have done worse things. Sometimes you make mistakes and you moved on. It could probably be something you did many years ago. But if you're in that kind of situation, first of all, some people may be feeling guilt because of what they did in their past, because especially when you start getting closer to God, there are things for those people that are closer to God or trying to get close to God. When you start getting closer to God, there are things you did in the past that you're not exactly proud of, and you want to try and make amends. So what you can do, like that person I told you about, that person I talked about when I was in university, that he did some things in year 3, he had the opportunity to apologize. If you have an opportunity to apologize to the person that you hurt or you harmed or whatever, try to apologize. But if you can't, then try to do your best. Try to do your best to help people in that situation, to just to help people in that situation, so that it's like you are paying forward. I don't know how to put it, like you are trying to make amends for something you did to somebody else. So try, and also try to advise younger people. Expect when you've made mistakes in certain areas, try to advise younger people. Tell them of the pitfalls that may be ahead. Because when you're a young person, the true Gen Z, Gen Alphas, their life always goes at a very fast pace. There are so many things to do, parties to attend, so there's a tendency for you not to really process your life, to understand your purpose. So you may find yourself being involved in different situations. So if, for example, you are an older person and you did something in the past that you're not exactly proud of, look around for younger people that you could talk to. You could guide. You could guide, you could tell them what to do and what not to do. Not to force, you don't impose yourself, but if they come to you for advice, and you could also offer, profess some solutions, so that they don't make the same mistake you made. That is life. Also, you try to address the situation as much as you can. You try to address the situation as much as you can. And the truth is, for those that like have a relationship with God, you realize that when you come to God and you are truly sorry for whatever you did, He will forgive you. That's because when you keep on holding things, maybe you did something in the past or something happened, for crying out loud, you can't go on feeling guilty. If it's something that maybe is criminal, and you have to pay for it in terms of going to the appropriate authorities and telling them what you did, I think is the best thing to do. Otherwise, you'll be haunted. You'll be haunted for that thing you did. So that is why prevention, in this case, prevention is always better than cure. Now, for Ezra Olubi, I think whatever happens, it's a time for him to reflect, to meditate on what led him to make such kind of decisions. If indeed the allegations are true, is true, and also to try to help people, and he can move on with life. There's this athlete they call Marion Jones. She was caught at a particular point of her life. She was caught that, very popular athlete in back in the day, very pretty lady. She was doing extremely well in sports, and eventually something came out. They said that she took some some substances to help her athletic performance, and it's not legal. And of course, today she has come out to say, this is what I did in the past. I'm sorry I did this. I was misguided. So there's always a road ahead. There's always a way ahead. So whatever be the case, you shouldn't take it as the end of the world. Yes, the allegations are strong allegations, very strong allegations, and it's not something that encourages good morals. It's something that is not particularly palatable, but indeed, if indeed those things happen, he should just accept it and try to make amends as best as he can. He's a very intelligent person to start a tech company at a very young age, especially for a Nigerian graduate where opportunities are not there. And he actually started something so marvelous like Paystack. It shows that he's gifted and he has remarkable qualities. So I still feel there's a bright future ahead for him. So what do you think about what I've said? Do you think people should just drag him as he really dragged the guy, and it should just be the end for him, or is there a way forward? Well, let's continue the conversation in comments. So till I see you in the next video where I talk about something that we may ponder about. Take care and stay cool.